Hi and welcome back to episode 2 of season 2 of the Canary Room. Now, you may notice I'm not my usual loud self, and that's because in the cage just behind me, we've got a new life being born. Got a bird just hatching out, so I'm going to quickly pull the pan out. Dan the cameraman's going to zoom in quickly, and then we'll put the bird back under because there's 4 other eggs due to hatch today as well. Okay, there you can see the young is just hatching, so it's half out the egg. It's got it's just got the base to go, and there it is. It's just pushing the rest of the egg away. We can see that, and it's arrived. And by the look of things, if I can just move this egg here, it looks like it might be a pink-eyed baby. That means it's a cinnamon, which means its father, who we'll see in a second, is a carrier cock. So if you've just seen, we like to keep things very, very real in the Canary Room. It doesn't get more real than that. A new life being born. We've just frantically pulled everything together so we could film that for you. Coming up on the show today, we've got a return of the features that you saw in episode 1 of season 2. So we've got Bird of the Week. This week it's a cobalt hen that we brought in recently from Alan Hoary. We will go on the road, and we're going down to see the A&S Kendall partnership. So Adam and Sharon, and then Mum and Dad, Kev and Sue. Don't think we catch Sue on film, but we certainly catch Kev in the background. Fantastic setup of British Norwich, and of course champion winning fights. We'll go around the room, and we'll check in with all the latest updates of what's going on. Today's Canary Room top tip: I'm going to show you how I wean my young birds and the preparations I make for the second round of breeding. And before we go, we'll wrap up with question time. So we're going to go around the room quickly, and the first birds that we're going to see are some of the very youngest birds in the Canary Room. You can see, and it's the subject of our top tips today, that we've weaned 4 fifes in the cage here, and 4 of our reds in the cage just behind me. If we go around the room, these birds have been away now, feeding on their own for about 6 or 7 days. So I'm going to move those up in a minute because we've got some more birds to wean today. As we go around the room, we've seen that we've got some new life in cage 9, and we've also got some new life due in cage 2. We've seen cage 9's young. I'm not going to disturb cage 2. But now it's time for our first feature, and we're going to look at Bird of the Week. So this week's Bird of the Week is an absolute cracker. She's a lesser Redpoll, but a cobalt hen. It's an over-year bird, which I managed to acquire from Alan Hoary in March when I went to see him. You can see the markings, the features on it are absolutely first class. But what really struck me about this hen was the depth of colour on it, the darkness, the black almost in the feathering. A beautiful little cobalt hen this. Alan bred from her last year. I've seen some of the young off her which Alan's retained. For me, that's always a good sign. I think Alan's done me a real favour with this bird. I've got a lovely cobalt cock to go with her that we'll see in the Redpoll diaries a little bit later on in the show. But this little sweetheart is possibly one of my favourites in the room. Let's take a closer look. So we're going to go back around the room again. You'll recall in the last episode that the reds here, whose young we've seen, were brought into the room to foster the Norwich young. So we've taken around from them. What I said in the last episode was I was going to try and coincide the laying of these birds and the Norwich, so I could set the Norwich eggs under them. Well, miracles happen. The Norwich laid first, but then the Reds laid the very next day. So currently the hen which is on the nest, you can see in here, is on 4 Norwich eggs from this pair behind me and 2 of her own eggs. 6 in the nest is an awfully big number, but the reds at the top have successfully reared 6. And what I'd also say, which has worked quite nicely for me, is that the Norwich up here have laid their 4th egg today, and the reds, and we'll check a little bit later on in the show, should have laid the 3rd egg. Now you'll see I've got an external pan on for the second round, and that's because it's a top cage and I wouldn't normally breed in those cages. I want to be able to check the young. So as we look in here, the Norwich and the reds look to be doing the job that they're doing. Canary keeping is full of ups and downs. Bird keeping is full of ups and downs. And sadly, as is always the case, we've had a really unfortunate incident in the Canary Room probably 10 days or so ago, not long after we filmed the last episode. I came in the morning to find one of the hens, a hen that we bought in from Adam and Sharon, an over-year buff hen, dead on the cage floor. No explanation, must have been spooked in the night, looked like she may have broken her neck. She was on 4 full eggs, 4 eggs out of the blue cock, who we can see now, and her own, obviously, eggs. The eggs were stone cold. She died on the Thursday morning. They were due to hatch on the Sunday. I am pleased to say that they did hatch. 2 of the young didn't make it, so obviously that chill had affected them, but 2 of them did. So they're under a foster hen. Let's have a little look at them now. We've been around the room. We'll go around one more time before the show finishes. Now though, we're going on the road. So when I was down in Stafford, I called in to see the family Kendall. The first shot we've got here is one of their crossbills. An absolutely gorgeous bird in one of their stunning flight setups that they've got. We saw a crossbill there. We've now got a pair of crossbills in the flight. Absolutely stunning birds. They had some success with them this year, or last year rather, and looking for more this year. This is one of their mutation greenfinch hens on her own. This is shot back in March, so she'll be paired up by now. A lovely bird. They've done very well with their greenfinches across the shows. We've got a very short clip now of the man himself. Here he is pointing out some of his birds. The bird that we see here, we'll see a little bit more of. This self-green yellow hen that we can see now, we've zoomed in on, was best in show, best champion up at Cleveland Fife. An absolutely lovely bird. Adam and Sharon had some real success with their variegateds. This variegated yellow hen really caught my eye when I was there. Lovely shape on it, lovely break in the neck. Lovely bird. I panned across the room to give you an idea of the size and scale of their setup. It is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. You get a view of it here, and in the background you can see the guys. And then what you've got here finally is a clip of Adam, Sharon, and in the foreground a great friend of mine, Graham Holdsworth, talking about the pairings that they're going to run this year. So that was the Kendall family. We will go and visit them again. An absolutely lovely family and some stunning birds. Hopefully get down there in the next couple of weeks and do some more filming while we're there. A nice little link to the next feature of the show. It's the Redpoll diaries, and actually it was through Adam that I made friends and made contact with Alan Horey. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's enjoy these little birds. It's the Redpoll diaries. This is not camera trickery. This is the cinnamon cobalt hen who has laid 6 eggs in one of the seed hoppers. Now the eggs, we'll see them in a minute, they're actually under one of the Razor hens. We moved them because obviously they kept sinking into the seed. I put some dummy eggs in there to let her sit full term. There are 2 other nest sites in there, but this little hen's decided she wants to go in the seed hopper. Let's have a little look now at her eggs underneath one of the razzers. So these are the Redpoll eggs underneath the razzers that we've just seen. I don't think all of them are full, to be fair. I think there's maybe 1, possibly 2. The one at the foreground looks like it could be full. They're due to hatch in a couple of days, so we'll see. They wouldn't have made it in the seed hopper. The birds would have simply just disappeared into the seed. So we'll see if we can get 1 or 2 polls out on this one. Time will tell. Let's have a little look at how we condition the other 2 pairs of Redpolls. So the Redpolls, although the cobalt hen, cinnamon cobalt hen, is slightly ahead, the other 2 pairs of Redpolls are just coming nicely into condition. They're always a little bit behind the canaries. One of the great ways of bringing them into condition is both of the things that I've got in my hand. So I've got some dandelions here, which are just about to burst, so they've flowered and they're about to seed. I picked those from the garden. They're washed and I'll pop them in a minute. I've been feeding them over the last couple of weeks. And the other thing, a great conditioner for birds is a bath. So I'll pop the bath in, I'll pop this the dandelion in, and we'll have a little look, and the birds should jump straight into the bath. So neither of the pairs are keen to have a bath. It seems, although it's a miserable day out there. I've got shorts on, but it is freezing, and it's now started to rain quite heavily. Last thing on the Redpoll Diaries for this episode, as you can see, there's nest sites on both of these pairs now. I actually have seen the normals behind me mating up this morning out the corner of my eye, which is fantastic, which hopefully means they'll build soon. They don't follow in the footsteps of the little hen down the bottom. Just a couple of things for their nesting material, slightly different than we use for the canaries. So we use jute mainly for the canaries in the room. So we've got some coconut fibre here, and so just some sisal strings. So I'll put little handfuls of this. I've been putting it in for the last few weeks, to be fair, and they've picked and they've played, but they've not built a nest in earnest yet. So I'll pop that in, and then we'll go to our latest in a series of how-to guides. So in this week's episode for top tips, I'm going to give my top tips for weaning young and ringing them. One of the first things to say is that there is absolutely no fixed time when you need to move your birds. So some people will say, oh, 21 days or 23 days or 25 days. You move your birds, you ring them and wean them when you've seen them picking up food and eating for themselves. And that is the biggest tip I can give you. We've seen in some of the footage here, we've seen the young behind me, that they're eating, they're picking up. The mother is still feeding them, and she will. My other tip really, when you're weaning birds, is move them early in the morning. Get a feed in them first from the parents. In this case, I'm using single hens, so from their mother. Get a feed in them, then you move them. And moving them early in the morning gives them a chance to peck away, and some of them will cheep and they'll cry and they'll tuck themselves up and all of those things. You move them in the morning, and then if you come home from work in an evening, you'll be able to check them and they should be okay. They will call to their parents, so it's important where you wean your young in the room so that they're not in direct eye line for their parents. Another tip, you'll notice in the cage behind me that I use trays. Now, I will introduce a tray in the room, in the cage rather, at about 17, 18 days, when the young have normally sprung the nest for the first time. And the reason I'll do this is it gets them used to feeding from the floor from a tray. So the seed hopper is on there, the tray's on there, they know water is in this container in the blue thing. So everything that's in their cage there is replicated in the new cage. So what I'm going to do, I'll show you the cage configuration that I've got here. These are my weaning cages just to the left, just out of shot at the moment. We'll move some of the birds that have already been weaned along, and then we've got 2 nests that we're going to move today. So we've got 10 birds in total. We're going to take them away, we're going to ring them, and we're going to wean them. So let's take a look how it's done. So one of the first things that we do when we're preparing the cage, it's been cleaned down, but I'm just going to give it a quick hoover. What I've got in the Canary Room is just a little Karcher dust extractor hoover, so it's for workshops really. It's great for picking up sawdust. There will be little bits and bobs of seed in here, but I don't want them to pick any of those up. So each day, as I move the paper on, and you'll see it as we move through the different cages here, I'll take the paper out, and they're on newspaper for 2 weeks. So these birds have been here for about 7 days now on newspaper. They'll be on newspaper for another 7 days. The reds are eating hard seed, I've seen that. The fifes will peck at hard seed, but they're not just pecking at hard seed at the moment, so there's no rush for them. And after about 2 weeks, we'll move them into other cages in the bird room, and then they'll go onto sawdust then. So I'm going to give a quick hoover around here. We'll put the newspaper in, and we'll set this cage up ready to take its new inhabitants. This is just belt and braces really. I'm going to get a little bit of this garden twist tie. So it's plastic coated, rubber coated rather, and what I'm going to do is close one of the bob holes over. So I'll leave the one open for the seed, but I'll just tie this over the other one, only as a precautionary measure. The birds are probably around about 25, 26 days old now, and I have seen them picking up and feeding themselves. But I'm going to close this over for the simple reason that I don't want any of the young, and they'll get a little bit frightened. I don't want them jumping out of the bob holes, particularly when I'm not here in the day. There's open water in the Canary Room, so we'll just close that over now quickly. It's very easily done, just in an almost sort of, not quite a figure of 8. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you can see now it's almost just blocked the hole up. Again, it's not a permanent structure by any set of the imagination, but it'll just stop the birds coming out. Next thing we're going to do, and I know some breeders don't do this, the only reason I do is so that they've got easy access to the water, is we're going to place a single perch in. Now you'll notice that with the birds that have been in for a little bit longer, there's 2 perches in. So I know some fanciers don't put perches in on the first day. I do. I'll put 1 perch in very, very low down in the cage. The reason I do that is so that it gives them access, very easy access to the drinking water. They will sit on it. You've got to, sometimes fanciers will say, oh, birds will sit on there and they'll cheep and they'll call for the parents to be fed. I believe that's the case, but I believe it's the case if you've weaned them too young. The beauty of weaning 3 or 4, 5 or 6 at the same time is that they'll learn from each other. So we'll pop a perch in now, we'll pop a seed hopper on, and this cage will be ready to take its new inhabitants. So one of the things I do at the same time as weaning the birds is I ring them. Now you'll notice that the birds in the 2 cages here haven't been rung yet, and that's because as we've been filming today, the rings have just arrived. So you can see they haven't been opened yet. I've ordered my rings from the same ring manufacturer for as long as I've kept canaries, a company called AC Hughes, who I recommend highly. The rings are in here. What I've got this year, because I've got different types of birds, is different sizes of rings. So I've got rings, the colour this year is blue. I've got rings for any Norwich young I may breed. I've got rings for the reds, and of course the other set of rings I've got are for the razzers and the fifes. So we'll start with the older birds that we've already moved away. I'll ring these now quickly, I'll clean their cages, and then we'll get the younger birds that we're going to take away and wean today out of their cages and into the new weaning cages. So the older birds have been rung and they've been moved. I'll show you in a minute the ring book that I use. I've had this one since 2012, so it's got the last 5 years in. and it's just a little note I have in the canary room until I put it all back onto the computer. I'm going to catch them up now. In this cage there's 3 fifes and there's a red, so I'm going to catch them, and as I catch them I'm going to powder them with an anti-mite powder, and then I'm going to ring them, all part of the same process. Now I've got a nest of 4 here and actually a nest of 6 behind me, so I'll split them into 2 nests of 5 for weaning. Now they'll stay in these cages, as I've said before, for about 10 to 14 days, and then they'll be put into larger flight cages just when I know that they've developed and they can eat hard seed. So I'll catch them up now, give them a quick powder as I've said, and then we'll ring them. So caught the bird up, we'll just outstretch its leg. We've already got the ring in the pliers. We'll pull. You can see the ring is closed nicely there on its leg. We'll pop the pliers away. This is all in one motion. We'll put a little bit of anti-mite on the bird. We won't spray it at this stage. We'll just rub that around the vent area, and then we'll put it in its weaning cage. So a great tip is to pour your rings into a little egg food drawer, and they're easier to find. So I've got a supply of Johnson's anti-mite powder. Any preparatory powder will do. At this stage I wouldn't spray them because I find the spray is just a little bit too harsh. So that's how we ring the birds. I'm going to catch the rest of them up, and there's another 9 to do. So I'll catch them up and I'll be back with you to talk about the feed that we do with the birds in a moment. So all of the young birds are now rung. Because we've caught them up, I'm going to just give my hands a quick squirt over with an antibacterial, and then I'm going to prepare the food for them. So I'll just do the hands quickly, and then we'll get the food done and back in there, and we'll get them settled. We've got our egg food mixture here, so I'm going to pop some of that on the tray, and then we've got I'll pop that down there. We've got our soaked seed as well. Pop some of that on. As they're first taken away, I like to give them some apple and some broccoli. I'll pop this in first, and then we'll get the apple and the broccoli ready. So you can see the young pecking away at the food. We'll put some broccoli in as well. Just pop that on the tray there. And then apple in the first 24-48 hours, I think, is an essential. So I'm going to push that through the bars, and that will just give them something to peck at. So the apple's got full of natural sugars. The birds have been taken away. They'll be a little bit stressed. It's important. You can see them, they've been picking up, and we've not taken them away till we've seen them eat. But the apple's got natural sugars in it. If they don't find the drinkers straight away, because it's an unusual cage for them, then they'll get the vitality, if you like, from there. And it's similar from the greens as well, from the broccoli. They'll get the things that they need, but also, as well as the vitamins that you get from both of these fruits and vegetables, it also stimulates some interest. So you can see the birds pecking away nicely. I will absolutely say they're in these cages, these weaning cages, only for a matter of days before they move to bigger flight cages. I think that's really important to say. The final thing that we'll do is we'll just mark the ring numbers down in the book, and there we go, 2017 breeding season off to a flyer. So the final thing we do now is mark the ring numbers down and the cocks and the hens that they're bred off down in the book, and that's how we wean and ring young in the canary room. We're just making a quick note of the ring numbers in the ring book. So we're starting at ring number 30 this year. I bought 100 rings. I've given 30 to a friend of mine, so I've got 31 to 100. You can see here you've got the ring number, the fact that the birds are clear, cock, ticked yellow hen, TYC, sorry, ticked yellow cock, M48, that's mauve ring 48, hen, tick buff hen, M11, mauve 11, and that goes right the way through. So hopefully, as the season goes on, this book will fill up. We're going to go back around the room now before we finish off with question time. So we've got young in the nests. We've just taken 2 nests away, as we've seen. I've got young in the nest behind me in cage 4. There's 3 young in there. I'm going to put some broccoli in to the nest in 4, in 10, in 3, in 15, in 18, and in cage number 1. And then I'm going to run the cock back into cage 11. Now he's mated this hen. We've just taken a young away. He's mated this hen. She's built a nest ready to go for the second round. So hopefully it won't be long till she's laying again. So I'll pop the broccoli in, move the birds around. We've had a not a bad start to the season. Don't like to speak too soon. We've got young in the nest. We've still got birds that we've not got any young from. Although of the 12 cock birds that we've kept in the canary room, we've got young so far of 10 of them. Now they're at different stages, so we don't kind of count our canaries before they've left the nest. But that's quite a good sort of solid start for us this year. We have got birds that are on their second clutch of eggs, so we've not had a round off them, or they've had clear eggs in the first round. And then we've got a number of hens who are going into their second round now. So we're end of April, beginning of May, ahead certainly of where we were last year. So anything can happen over the course of the season. You know, you can have a strong first round and a disastrous second round. Got to keep an eye on mite in the shed, absolutely important because they can ruin a season. I'm extra vigilant this year. So I'm going to pop this broccoli in and then I'm going to run a cock in with cage 11. We'll then move on to question time and then I'll finish up in the canary room. So our first question today is coming from Andrew Triolo. Does cinnamon affect feather texture, and if so, how and why? It's a great question, Andrew, and it moves into sort of canary folklore. So as a fancier, we're given a whole series of things to believe over a period of time. And one of the things with canary keeping is there's not a massive amount of research into it. So opinions very quickly become facts. And cinnamon is one of those areas which has become a fact. So the canary men of old, if you like, will say that, you know, cinnamon has a softer feather, it's better, it will add more to your birds, and every now and again you should, you know, use cinnamon hens in your stud to improve your feather quality. Again, it's really down to personal experience. I keep cinnamons, we can see. I've got a cinnamon hen, a couple of cinnamon hens behind me here. We've got a carrier cock in the cage just above, and we found out this morning we've got another carrier cock in the shed, as we've got a little pink-eyed bird now, so that bird will be a hen. There isn't a great deal published about it. What I have seen that's published about it suggests that actually cinnamon has no impact on the actual feather quality, and it's an optical illusion. That is, you know, not fact, I don't think. It's somebody else's opinion. I use cinnamons, I think, you know, regardless of what they do or maybe don't do to the feather texture, I think in their own right they're a very, very beautiful bird, a very attractive bird. And I like having them in the shed. As we know, I've tried and not had a great deal of success in building a cinnamon line. Hopefully this year will be different. So Andrew, inconclusive, I think, is the answer to that. Does it? Well, yes, if you speak to canary men of many, many years, they'd say cinnamon has a positive impact on the feather quality. There isn't, I can't find at least the science to back that up. So the second question's come in via Facebook from Ricky Jagger. Ricky's asked if I can show you how I look after the eggs, what I do with the eggs when I take them away. So I'm very, very happy to do that, how the eggs are stored. So in a cage just out of shot here, we've got an egg. a red hen who should have laid today. We haven't taken the egg away from her. So I'll take the egg away now and I'll show you what we do with it. So you can see we've got 2 dummy eggs here, and the hen has laid the 3rd egg this morning. So what we do is we remove the egg very, very, very carefully. You don't really want to over touch the eggs. So what I'll do is I'll take the pan down to our egg drawer, which is just out of shot here. So the egg drawer actually just has some plain canary in it, which is where I rest the eggs. Now I'll pop that one gently in there. I'll pop another dummy in, and I'll put this very quickly back up here. So with the eggs in the egg drawer, what I will do is when one egg is laid, I'll turn the other 2 eggs over the following days, just so I'm continually turning the eggs before I set them. There's no heating in here, there's no heating in the room at all. The drawer is simply closed over, and that's to stop other things getting in, NEC getting in or it getting fouled. And then all I'll do, we saw it in the last episode of the show, is I just mark the eggs up in here. What I will do is normally wait until the hens have laid 4 eggs, and then I will set them in the morning of the 4th egg. So I'll put the eggs in, I'll set the clutch, and I'll keep an eye on the hen. So you want to make sure that the hens are sitting tight. Now the weather at the moment has been up and down. We've had snow, hail, the hottest day on record, so the weather's all over the place. It will infect the birds, it will have an impact on them, it will have an impact on the eggs. But the eggs are just kept in a cool place. They're out of direct sunlight, they're out of a draft. As I say, the lid is on them, but they're not warmed, they're just turned daily. Ricky, I hope that answers your question. So that's all we've got time for today. Don't forget, you can search for us on YouTube. If you just pop in The Canary Room, and you'll see some bits and bobs from the show. Follow us on Instagram too, and of course Twitter. Get in touch with the show through Facebook or info@thecanaryroom.tv. Send us in your shots of your setup and we'll show them on future episodes. Until next time, take care. We're going to look at Bird of the Week. It's Bird of the Week. Tweet, tweet. And then we'll go back around the room. No, we won't. I'll pop that in, and then we'll... Slick. Read the script. What do you mean there's a script? Okay, the running order. So... Brum, brum, brum.